Have you heard of the Kumite?
Did you say Kumite?
Uh-huh, the Kumite.
One of my earliest childhood memories was the Pac-Man arcade game down at the local bingo hall in Oklahoma City. I must have spent over $100 on that game, and that was before I was even 5 years old. Not to mention spending countless hours playing Pac-Man on the Atari 2600 with my mom. So it's pretty safe to say that Pac-Man has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. And that's why I was very happy in recent years when Pac-Man started making a comeback. First with Championship Edition, and then there was Pac-Man 256, and in 2011, Pac-Man Battle Royale showed up at the arcade. Now this particular version of Pac-Man was one of my favorites because it was competitive. You could go out and you could play against 3 other players and try to eat them and compete for the best score. So I was pretty excited when I heard that there was going to be a competitive Pac-Man game coming home to consoles. That would be Pac-Man Mega Tunnel Battle Chomp Champs, which released on May 9th for the Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, and Xbox Series S and X. Now, what I knew about this game is that it previously was released on the Google Stadia, a console that no longer exists anymore because, people don't want to stream. People like to own their content. But this was a exclusive game for that system, and it really wasn't released anywhere else until just recently. So the plot of this game is there's 64 players. Each player has his own maze, and during the course of the game, you can exit your maze and enter another player's maze and basically wreak havoc. You can eat their dots, eat their power pellets, eat their ghosts. You can collect power-ups and do whatever you want. Ultimately, at the last man standing wins. It starts with 64 players and it cuts all the way down to whoever's left. Now, the gameplay itself is basic Pac-Man gameplay. You got a maze, you got 4 ghosts, you got 4 power pills. The ghosts are chasing you. You eat the power pills, you go out, you eat the ghosts. And if another Pac-Man shows up on your board, you can eat them too. So it really has a lot in common with the Pac-Man Battle Royale game, but it's not quite the same. For one, it's a lot slower. I couldn't really get into the pacing of this game. It was even slower than regular Pac-Man, which was a little bit odd. Graphically, the game's decent. It looks okay. I think it's a little bit busy for a Pac-Man game. Like, there's a lot going on these boards, and the character graphics themselves kind of resemble the Pac-Mania games back from the original PlayStation. It's okay, but I personally prefer the classic look, the Championship Edition look, or just old school Pac-Man. And I really wish there was an option to change the characters. You can change the boards, but the characters are always going to have this 3D look that's kind of, it's kind of okay. But that is one thing I would definitely want to change, is the art style. The sound, it's just okay too. It's really nothing to write home about. From what I understand, the sound in this version is better than the original Google Stadia version, but still, it could be better. I got bored with the sound real quick. I really wish that there were more options, or at the very least, just a bigger selection when it comes to music. One big problem with this game is the player base. For one, this game is online only, which, in my opinion, is a poor decision. There are a lot of other things that are wrong with this game, but the player base is a huge problem. Um, I believe right now this game's only a couple of months old, but if you check on Steam, at any given day, there's probably about 40 to 50 players online. And this is for a game that is set up to play 64 players at a time. And tops on good days, you might get 50 people actually playing throughout the entire day. So, needless to say, most of what you're going to be playing against are bots, which really sucks because the bots are dumb as shit, for one. So, it's really easy to win the game. And you rarely, if ever, actually come across a human player. Now, in those rare occasions that you do come across a human player, the game can be pretty exciting. It gets a little interesting because you're both kind of battling each other and maneuvering around the ghost, trying to force the other player to get trapped. I think that's where the game shines, because underneath all of the garbage, it is actually a fun game. Like what they're trying to do, I think there's a good game inside of this, but there's so much wrong with it right now that there's no way that I could recommend it, especially at the price point. This game is $20, and to be perfectly honest, it should be free. Not only because I'm cheap, yes, I am cheap, but a free game would really help with the player base, which is just abysmal. And there's a lot of customization involved. You could monetize that. That would be a little bit smarter, you know? Make the game free to play and then put a paywall in front of some of the cooler premium customizations. In my opinion, this would help the game immensely because, let's be real, it's Pac-Man in 2024. Its player base is mostly going to be people like me, people who are playing for the nostalgia. You know, the young player base, they're not really going to care. So the game really needs to be free, and it really needs to be something that's easily picked up for anybody. Now, another problem with this game is that it really feels half-baked. Like I'm not even sure that it's a complete port from the Stadia game. One big issue is you're playing the game and all of a sudden it goes to the win screen, just out of the blue. Like you don't even know that the game's about to end, and then all of a sudden you go to the ending screen. I feel like there could have been a better transition there. There should have been something, because that is just abrupt. It takes you right out of the game. And then you're queued again, which seems to take forever. And then you go into another game where there might be one or two other human players and then a bunch of bots. On another issue with the game that could be more of a blessing in some sort of way is that there's not very many game modes. You have an elimination mode and a ranked mode, and really the two games are almost exactly the same, except one is ranked. And like I said, this is probably a good thing because there's so few people playing that the last thing you want to do is scatter them out across a whole bunch of different game modes. But really, everything here all points back to the one central problem. This game has no player base, and the bots are simply too easy to beat. I think if the bots provided some form of real challenge, then maybe I could get past, almost never playing actual people online. But as it stands, the game's too easy, it's not fun, and really, it's not worth $20 at all. So ultimately, there is something in the game that's good, but it's half-baked, it kind of feels poorly made, and at $20 price point, I can't recommend this game to anybody. And that's really disappointing because this is Namco, this is one of the biggest companies out there. And to be honest, I've seen indie games out there with better quality than this. And when I'm talking about indie games, I mean games that are made by one person. Okay, I'm talking about stuff that you might find on Roblox or something like that. I feel some of those games have more effort than what I see when I play this game. So overall, out of 5, I would give this game a 1.5. Like, I really, really want to like it, but it's nothing but a disappointment. And hopefully, one day, Namco will wise up and just give us an online version of Pac-Man Battle Royale. That's all I really want. Give us that. And maybe bring back Miss Pac-Man one day. Well, that's all I have for today. This is my first stream in the Kumite. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.